YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage back, and feeling pretty good. A little bit tired. I think Mrs. Ayers had it worse than me, but the baby's here and doing well. We just got home. Time for me to do a little more recording while the baby's resting, and feeling surprisingly well. I guess maybe since it's take two, it feels a little easier, but I don't want to mislead you all. Having kids is a lot of work. It's definitely work that's well worth it. I've been excited to have a lot of time with my family. It has been great, and I appreciate all the congratulations from you all too. That's very nice. I got a lot of people commenting, so many that there's no way I'm going to be able to respond to it all. Had folks on Twitter and then in the comments in the last video and the video before saying congratulations. It's very much appreciated. Mrs. Ayers and I say thank you and appreciate your support, and I'm happy to be back on here, so let's jump in. So I've got some more replays here from Johan that he sent in. And he's going to be talking a little bit about Suebi versus Easterners and Nomads, and talk a little bit about how they're useful. I'm going to read you some of his thoughts here before we jump into a battle. And so he sent me 3 different replays. I don't know if we'll watch them all here, but he uses the same build, and he says his idea is that you're trying to counter the Masegete and the Easterners where they're weak instead of trying to negate what they are doing great. So Nomads are great at baiting missiles and cycle charging and all that other stuff. And so he's thinking, well, how do you counter that? His idea is, well, you bring very mobile, fast, aggressive army that puts pressure on every part of the Nomad army at all times so that they can't kind of ease in around you and, and try and take their time and shoot you to pieces and cycle charge. So he says by bringing a mobile, fast, aggressive army, that puts the pressure on every part of theirs. Scouts can bait out the missiles from horse archers, and he's thinking you have at least 3 groups of scouts, and you want to use them in different locations. They can outrun the Nomad Cav, they can evade missiles, they can deal damage with their javelins, and then at the same time he's saying, well, you take 10 sturdy, CC spears. I'm not sure exactly what he means by CC, but we'll take a look. Cavalry counter-tactic spears, I think, is what he's thinking there. Yeah, so counter-cavalry spears, maybe. They don't die against a single charge, and then your Cimbri bows deal out the damage, basically, to the Lancers and other stuff when they're coming in. And then he's saying, quite counterintuitively, Cimbri have been invaluable in this approach since you push Nomads. Nomads can never target the otherwise very vulnerable missiles, which is the Cimbri. So you're forcing them to choose between which kind of bad engagement they're going to take. That's what he's saying here. So anyway, I've read a little bit about his thoughts. I hope I didn't misrepresent it because it was his email. But yeah, anyway, let's go take a look at some of these replays and see what we can learn here. Wow, he does have a lot of pretty tough spears there. 4 Wodenaz, and it looks like 6 spear wall, 4 Cimbri Bowen. That is a lot of scouts. And this is a pretty beefy Masegete build here that would normally be quite a lot of problem. So where the Suebi can suffer versus a faction like Masegete is their units are light, and they're typically fairly lightly armored. Some of them have pretty decent shield block chance, but because they're so light, they're easy to toss around with cavalry charges, and they are also somewhat vulnerable to missile fire over some maybe heavier like Arverni or Boei or something. But I really feel like Suebi has a lot of good units if you know how to use them right, and obviously I think we've seen that Johan is pretty good at that. Again, he's coming up here with his scouts. Like he said, he wants to put pressure and he wants to bait missiles, and you can see how good they are at baiting missiles there. Took a couple of casualties here, nothing severe, but you can see he does have his 3 groups of scouts, and it is kind of a counter. Usually people try and like ball up and be defensive against the Nomads, but because of these scouts, he's actually out here putting pressure on the Nomad player, because usually it's easier to micro. I think, I say micro, I think it's a little easier to macro sometimes when you're the Nomad player, because the other player has to play more defensively, and you have all the mobility, and you kind of take your time and spread out, where all this mobility from the Suebi seems to be allowing Johan to put a lot of pressure on the Nomads, and they can't really work to surround the Suebi at this point because of the bows and the fast-moving scout cavalry. So it is definitely an interesting idea, and let's take a look to see if he's getting any kills out of it yet. He may not get a ton of kills right away. Not really, but he is dishing some damage, and all that damage is very important in the end. Step armored lancers, Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty steppe lancers, and then there's probably some noble armored lancers. Same thing over here. Let's take a look at the the bow horsemen. I see 3 steppe horse archers there. I would think that some of these have got to be... Yeah, there's some horse archers back here in the back. So plenty of horse archers, but a lot of shock cavalry, and shock cavalry just really suffers versus these fast Germanic raiders. Ooh, a little bit of a mistake here, microing into that unit. He was probably trying to go around him, but he can get away. The units that hit him didn't hit particularly hard. So you can definitely see here that Johann is microing his troops. They're not just running around on skirmish, at least not all of them. So pretty impressive that he's taking the time to micro these guys right. And it's going to pay dividends because he's getting some serious damage done. Not with air, yeah, decent damage with both units actually. So definitely a nice job. And look at this. This is so different than your typical barbarian versus nomad. A lot of times in a barbarian versus nomad, people just see like, all right, I'm going to lose the mobility fight. I'm just going to sit back and try and hit these guys with slingers to death. And inevitably, you know, the barbarians get to choose their engagements the way they want, when they want, or not the barbarians, the nomads. And it, you know, it usually turns out nasty for the barbarian faction. Steppe horse archers firing away here, a few of them at least. This is just excellent damage out here. A steppe armored lancer off the field. And pretty significant damage done on several of these units. The chase here from the spearmen, they're going to be charged by steppe lancers now. But this is a Wodenaz spear. This isn't a spear levy. These guys are not going to go down easily, and they have the cavalry counterattacks. Yeah, sure, they'll take a ton of damage on the charge, but they are going to dish it out. Look at the kills jumping up there. Look at that. Just jumped right up to 30 kills. And these Wodenaz spears may get killed, but you remember when you're the player with the steppe faction, the number of men you have is much lower, and so you have to be very efficient with your kills. You can't afford this many losses for that many kills, and the Wodenaz spears make it pretty difficult to get that ratio right, because they are pretty darn good against cavalry. They have some anti-armor capability more than regular spears, and then they have the cavalry counter tactics, which I'm assuming that extra damage kind of acts like armor piercing, if I understand the mechanics of the game right. And if I'm wrong, of course, feel free to correct. And look at these scout riders here, too, where the spears are getting mobbed. They just pull in and they start unleashing javelins. This is a great way to just tear apart what would otherwise be a very, very formidable... Look at this, too. 93 cavalry kills while it was singled out. Light spear. Don't underestimate Wodenaz spears. They're a lightweight class, but they're not lightweights when it comes to fighting cavalry if they get the right engagement. 109 kills on cavalry, so that's over 2 full units of cavalry. Or they're at 60. Yeah, they're at 60, my bad. So almost 2 full units. I was thinking Warhammer there for a minute, where they're at 45 and the normal unit sizings. Yeah, that is a nice performance. So very good trade there for the Suebi. These scout cavalry just being an absolute nuisance. Really, really well done. I like it. Let's kind of fast forward and watch from a high view at how some of this plays out. So that way we may be able to take a look at another replay as well. Or I might just save some of these, since these are good. I'll just bring them to you from time to time because you'll like seeing Rome 2 action. And I don't have time to play Rome 2, so all you see from me on Rome 2 will most likely be replays at the moment. But yeah, I mean, obviously I'll still be wanting to play some Warhammer. I'm going to probably show some replays for the next couple of days until I understand, you know, how much time I have to play the game right now. I'm definitely still going to be playing the games, but this is good quality learning right here, what you're seeing. Nice charge here into the Wodenaz spears, who were retreating away from these steppe noble lancers. And now they're into the Cimbri bowwomen. But if these Wodenaz just turn around, and yeah, look here, the Cimbri bowwomen pouring it into the back of the noble lancers. And it looks like the steppe faction has just gone ahead and engaged, and this is not going to go well. These are all some pretty sturdy spears. A lot of cavalry counter tactics. Definitely not the engagement that the Nomads want here. Spear wall have extremely high melee defense, and they have a nice solid bonus versus large. Now here's a nice play. They're going to get hit by Draco, which is, if you're not familiar with this ability, it drops the bonus versus large significantly. And it can be very, very good to use against like Romans when they bring Triari or something. But like I said, all these spears have cavalry countering tactics, and right there it's popped just a little too late. The Noble Lancer gets away. Just a little too late. But, I mean, this battle is very, very much in favor of the Suebi. You can see it down here. It's going to go on for quite a lot longer, probably because the Nomads are going to avoid any type of decisive engagement. Over here, losing a lot of their scout cavalry. But it was probably intentional to try and get these spears into the fight against the Noble armored Lancers. It was. Cavalry counter tactics a little bit too late there. But it's worth a shot. So the Suebi have been very, very aggressive against this Nomad army. You can see that the balance of power is just almost non-existent here for the Nomad player. And the aggression just continues to come on the part of the Suebi. And it is very interesting to see the Barbarian faction really be the aggressor in these battles. More Draco onto the spear units, but when they pop that cavalry counter tactics, they are going to be still extremely effective versus cavalry. Again, these units are light, so they do get pounded on the charge to some degree still, but it's the amount of damage that they dish out on the disengagement and then with the javelins that's really going to pay dividends, and it's going to make it very difficult for the steppe faction in what otherwise might be a slightly easier fight. Notice there's no axes here, there's no sword masters, they didn't bring any of the heavier units, the more expensive units or whatever it was, just real sturdy spears. And like he said, he's not necessarily trying to stop the Nomads at what they're best at. You know, instead of trying to skirmish with them and stuff like that, he's just using the scout cavalry to allow him to be the aggressor rather than the defender. And I think that the Nomads are the obvious aggressor in any engagement they come to. So it makes sense. Flip the table, right? Do something that your opponent doesn't expect. That's typically a good fundamental of almost any strategy, is don't do what your opponent expects. Now, he is spread very thin in his lines here. He's probably doing it so that he has more coverage, but it does cost you when you get charged because you can't brace properly when you're in a single deep line or something like this. So just be aware of that. Again, it looks like he's doing it just to cover ground more than anything. Nomad player is going to continue to try and stay alive and avoid any main engagements. He's got horse archers, but the Cimbri bowwomen are going to make it nearly impossible for the engagement to take place. And again, the mobility here from the Germanic Scout Cav, see how it kind of corrals the Nomads? It comes over here. Now, they can charge right through it, but you know, they can kind of come over here and force it to slow down and get into a position it doesn't want to be in. See there, the Cimbri bowwomen mopping up that cavalry unit. Scout cavalry here is just being very, very useful. It's kind of slowing and annoying the Nomad cavalry. I'm surprised these guys aren't rounding just from the power bar, to be honest. It's probably because their general's still present. But only 2.5 minutes left. Still a long battle, so definitely not like a quick, super fast battle or anything. But I really enjoyed this one. I hope you all learned something from this too. It's definitely kind of eye-opening to, I think, see someone who's used Suebi really well. And I remember Soul Invictus sent me a message too about Johan saying that he had learned a lot about how to play Suebi from this guy also. So clearly, this is someone who dedicated a lot of time to learning about Suebi, and I'm impressed. He does some marvelous work with them. So here comes the final bit of engagement here. Let's go in and watch this close up. You can see some of these sweet Rome 2 units in action. Rome 2 did have some really cool looking units. Some of them were kind of goofy, but I actually kind of felt like the units in Rome 2 definitely looked pretty neat. If they would have changed a few things about the mechanics in this game and cleaned up, obviously not launched it with all the bugs that it had at launch, this game would have truly been marvelous. Still a lot of fun. They did a good job considering how bad this game released. In its end state, it was actually pretty darn fun. So let's take a look at that there. So Lero was playing as a Suebi. I'm guessing that's maybe Johan under a different name, or it's a friend. And then we had Vetri, or hang on, Vetrii or Vetri. Anyway, so he's playing as the Masegete, and you can see here just, let's look at the spears, 114 kills in that Wodenaz. I think that was the one that got singled out. The rest of them didn't get as many kills, but again, it's the damage, it's the trade-off. What are they able to trade off with the Nomad units? Because you're talking 60 per unit for the Nomads, whereas it's about 120 per unit. So the Nomads have to kind of get twice as many kills with each of their units, typically. And so, I mean, again, look at the kills on the Cimbri bowwomen. Very useful here. The kills on the Scout Cav is significant, and Javelins are extremely good against horses. Very good. And you can see that this build doesn't make you invulnerable. I mean, these Noble Lancers, they still dished out a lot of damage, like you would expect against light units. But again, it's the combination, I think, that helped make Suebi dangerous here. So yes, a couple of his units did get a lot of kills. But again, since it kind of flipped the table and allowed the Suebi to be the aggressor, it's going to throw the Masegete player for a loop, because they have to figure out how to defend against it all of a sudden when you're getting harassed by scout riders on several fronts. So definitely enjoyed that one. I'm going to leave it here so that you all can think and talk about this one. I got a lot more replays to show you. I mean, Johan sent me a ton of replays, and I'm really excited to look at all of them. And it's not just Suebi either. He sent me some replays for the Getae, I believe. I'm going to tab over and look. So let me take a look. Yeah, the Getae, and he also sent me some for Nervii. So pretty excited to look at those. So yeah, we'll take a look at some of those next time. At least once a week, I'll bring you one of these, and if we need to accelerate it at some point, we will. But I got you some Halo this week. I got you some Rome 2. Hopefully some decent variety. I still want to finish Homeworld 2. I want to finish the Halo Wars campaign before Halo Wars 2 comes out, so that we have all the background up in my channel on that for people who want to see the story on Halo Wars 1. And yeah, obviously I'll keep bringing you Warhammer too, because that's pretty popular with my viewers right now. It's the most popular with my viewers, and I love it too. So stick around. Got lots of great stuff coming. Hey, I appreciate you. You guys are awesome viewers, and like I said, really appreciate the congratulations and the support you all have given me while I've gone through having the child. And I just continue to appreciate your viewership and everything that you contribute here. It for me makes making these videos amazing. It's fun. I really enjoy it. I'll see you all soon, and hopefully we have some more fun battles to look at.